Greetings, my name is Mordechai Finley, Rabbi of Ohr HaTorah congregation in Los Angeles, and I'm also the Provost and Professor of Mysticism, Liturgy, Spirituality at the Academy for Jewish Religion, also in Los Angeles. Many of my students have asked me if I would take the teachings that I deliver on a weekly basis and put them on the internet so that they can access them when they have the time, the repose, to listen and reflect. And so I've agreed to this experiment of putting some of my teachings up on the web, and I hope the students who are watching this that you enjoy it, and those of you who have not yet studied with me, I hope you find some benefit in these teachings. Now, my general area of teaching is called Jewish spirituality, and this word spirituality is a term that is misused, misunderstood by many. So I think it's well, as a teacher of Jewish spirituality, that first I try to define the term as carefully as I can. When I think of the term spirituality, the word that is used in Hebrew to translate spirituality is ruchaniyut, from the Hebrew word ruach, which means spirit. But I want to take us to a little bit deeper level. When we think of the Hebrew word for soul, neshama, the Hebrew word neshama comes from the Hebrew word to breathe. In Hebrew we say linshom, which means to breathe in, breathe out. But in the Torah, in the very beginning of the Torah, when God creates the human being, the first human being is an inert mass. He's called Adam, which in Hebrew is connected to the word Adama, which means earth, Adom, which means red. So try to imagine there's an inert human being, and then the Torah says that God blows in, vayipach be'apav, that God blows into the nostrils of this inert being, and he becomes a nishmat chayim, he becomes a living being. So this Hebrew word neshama refers to the human being animated by the divine breath. So when I think of spirituality, I think about this duality of human existence. One side of it is that we are of the body, as it were, and I'll define that a little more precisely in a moment. But the deepest part of us is the breath of God that is breathed into us, which forms our essential nature. You might say that the divine participates in the human being. Now, the problem with us human beings is that we're not always in touch with that divine side of our nature. Oftentimes as we go through life, especially in times of moral stress, for example, there can be a moment in life when you're filled with spontaneity and creativity and love, and life feels good. Then something happens that throws you off. Something happens where you feel offended, where you feel insecure. And I felt it myself, and many people share with me that they go almost instantaneously sometimes into a place of anger, a place of shame, a kind of a living hell, and they don't know how to find their way out. Sometimes in relationships, people truly love each other and care about each other, and they find themselves fighting, they find themselves angry, and they don't understand how something as deep and ennobling as love can sometimes turn so bad and be so difficult. So we human beings have a side called the neshama, the breath of God within us, that is rooted in the world of value, the world of love and justice and truth and beauty. But there's another side of the human being that seems to conspire to take us out of the consciousness of that world of value and out of the deep and most profound things of our lives. So for me, Jewish spirituality has to do with the study of how to maintain a conscious connection with the realm of the neshama, with the realm of the soul, so that we can have lives that are more filled with what I call the four garments of the soul: love and justice and truth and beauty, and the root of all of those four, the realm of holiness, and how we can look at the inner processes of thought and feeling and emotion that take us out of that realm of the neshama. Now, what do we call that part of the self that takes us out of the realm of the neshama? Well, there's a fascinating line in the Torah, in the book of Genesis, where in Genesis chapter 6, God is reflecting upon the first epoch of creation. God looks at Adam and Eve and eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, being expelled from the garden, and reflecting on those first generations where we see violence and bloodshed, and you might say that God looks upon the human being having defaced the divine image in their lives. And God, Torah tells us, God is sad into God's soul, and God sees the following Hebrew sentence is used, that kol yetzer machshavot libo rak ra kol hayom. It's an important line in the Torah to understand very carefully. Kol yetzer, the Hebrew word yetzer, which is normally translated as urge or inclination, is from the Hebrew word litzor, which means to shape or form, even create. It says, yetzer machshavot libo. A machshava is a thought. The Hebrew word machshev is a computer. Cheshbonit is a calculator. So try to imagine that we have this shaping, forming dimension of our being that's calculating, trying to figure out how to conduct our lives. The Hebrew word lev is normally translated as heart, and I think in English and also in modern Hebrew when we say lev, we mean the seat of moral intuition.